I can see the CSR is well represented. I'm actually hoping, waiting for two folks in specific that said that they wanted to join if they could. It was JP from Exaro and JC from Teresa. But they did say if they can't join, they will want to listen to the recording. So irrespective, I don't think it matters in terms of who's here. Matthew, I think we do this and then we've got a good reference that we can show to everyone, if that's okay with you. I think everyone's busy, so let's start. I'll let folks come in as they join. So maybe before you do, I probably just need to say welcome to everyone. Thanks that you could join. The purpose for this meeting is to give Digital Twin an opportunity to showcase what they did. And usually our closeout meetings, we only allow about 10 to 15 minutes at tops for someone to present his whole project that he did for a whole year, which doesn't actually give justice to it. And more to it, Matthew then created a tool, which I would like them to actually demo for us, because it's all well to talk to it, but it would be good to see it. So this is what I was hoping that they would do as well, and maybe just take us through a typical sample of how you would use it. I think that would be the purpose for me for today. I hope that's in your agenda, Matthew. That was the first outcome. The second outcome that I was hoping to achieve is so with my dealings with the TEC and the members that's on our group, we have found that there's interest in opportunities for this for next year. So that is what we would like to explore, and this would give everyone the opportunity to see what there is and how it could fit into a possible opportunity to next year. So that's the other objective. So usually we start off with a safety and values moment. I haven't specifically prepared for one. I'm going to open it to the group if someone have got something that they would like to share, and we start off with that. I'll quickly pause and see if there's someone that's got something that they would like to share. Yep. Then I will share something that actually
I can do it, Marius, if you wanted a safety moment.
Pardon?
If you wanted a safety moment, I can do a share.
Oh, could you please? Thanks.
Yeah, I think just obviously coming up to the Easter period, I think that's always a renowned period for lots of celebration, but also lots of road and traffic fatalities. So I think just a message to everybody that coming into this period, just to start practicing all the safe driving habits into this period, I think is especially important. Thanks, Marius.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's an important one and always a continuous one. I wish I could spend the effort that they've spent on COVID, but on traffic management. I think if they could have saved a lot more. What I'm trying to say is I wish they would spend the same type of effort that they did on COVID on traffic, and I think that would have saved a lot of more people on the traffic. But that's just my 2 cents. Thanks for that. This is not my show. Can I hand it over to you, Matthew and Anton, and take it further for us, please?
Sure. Thanks, Morris. Let me just put up a presentation. Okay. Can everyone see my screen there?
Yes, thank you. We can see it.
Great.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you to the team here. Thanks for the opportunity. I think as Marius covered, the demonstration today. We've got a couple of slides. We don't want to spend too much time death by presentation. A couple of slides just to give context to the version 5 business case tooling, and we think the context is quite important. And then, so just firstly, my name's Anton from Digital Twin. I've looked at the names in the contacts block, and I seem to recognize everybody, but in case you didn't know, it's Anton from Digital Twin. I look after our consulting and analytics area of our business. With me around the table is Matthew Duddy. He's been the project leader that has led the Mandela Mining Precinct work. On our right is one of our whizzes and very brights in Kurt. Kurt has been very instrumentally involved in developing the actual front end and back end of the tooling that you'll see today. And then further around the table, Sunette is also here. She's led the digital marketing campaign, which hopefully most have seen most of the RTIMS posts that have gone out. We've been quite proud of that work that's come through, but with the whole sort of method of trying to advance the adoption and awareness of all the great work that's happening within the RTIMS program. And there are one or two other members that are also involved from our team, but that's who you've got from us today. So just a little bit of context. If we just go to the first page, Matt, thank you. So why did this project come about? Josie, I just see you're suggesting we should unshare. We've just switched to the first slide now. Was it not sharing on your side? Let's just confirm that you see a page that says context on the top left with a big shiny dashboard in the middle called the overall performance index.
It just shows a big black screen. But let's see, now they're spinning. Okay, there you go. Now it pulled through. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's showing.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Right, so just within the context of how the version 5 business case tooling came about, so most around this table will be aware that the core focus of the business case tooling has been in the underground environment, hard rock underground environment, and focus specifically on core operations. So, how do we impact things like grades and costs and tonnages as it relates to underground hard rock mining? This cycle quest was really around the 3 elements that you see on the bottom right of your screen in the bold text: sustainability, capital upgrades, and services. And in that regard, it's from a business case evaluation perspective, really quite tricky in terms of financial evaluation. And that's why you'll see the picture that's in front of you, and Matt will demonstrate it later, is an alternate measurement method, which is over and above a direct financial evaluation that's been included in the tooling for this cycle. And we've called it the overall performance index, or OPI. And that measurement capability we put in place specifically to enable organizations to measure in a broader context than financial evaluation. And similar to a balanced scorecard type of metric, the overall objective was to land or to put in some evaluation which you could do strategic evaluation of your initiatives or your portfolio of initiatives over and above the financial evaluation. So what you'll see in the demo today is a contrast between the financial evaluation, but then also starting to overlay things like your GHG emissions targets and the likes, which you might weight strategically and differently to some of the other areas and strategic objectives and focus within your specific mine. So what the team tried to do in this cycle was certainly to enable a level of flexibility, scalability and flexibility in terms of your own, let's call it organizational, strategic objectives and mandate. You'll see that the demo today, we've preloaded with our own configuration of the value driver tree behind sustainability, behind services. But what the team have done is they've built a certain level of scalability and flexibility around what you call things and how they would be weighted within your own specific organization. So in short, the context to this version 5 was to move beyond core operations into some of these strategic levers. And if we page down from there, Matt. Now, in our work around this cycle, and we call this page limitations. And the limitations page we found was quite important, especially as we were piloting and testing the tool within some of the services discussions by way of example. Whether you're talking about HR service or a financial service or supply chain, there's all within the sustainability side, there's multiple different metrics within each of these different areas that measure and determine performance. So the challenge with business case tooling, as we've gone further and further into establishing this capability for Mandela Mining Precinct as well as industry, is that you don't want to turn this into an audit tool. There are several different deep dive tools, and here we've just around this page that's in front of you, it's intentionally very busy. There are several different, let's call it well-established audit firms or internal audits that are around all the specific different areas. That is not what the business case tooling was intended to be. What it certainly is intended to be is to allow the evaluation of digital initiatives and how they impact. So we need to align with, let's call it, some of the metrics that are available across the different audit bodies and the likes. And one of the challenges, I think, for this cycle was to almost extract some thinking out of that. And I think, the team has done a pretty good job at, let's call it, a first version of moving out of core. And I think there is probably further, at least in the discussions with Teresa and with Harmony, we definitely think there is further opportunity to expand these value driver trees into some of the very specific sustainability and services areas. But I think as a starting point, as we enter this area that is more strategic in terms of evaluation rather than direct digitization in core operations, we think that it's a really good starting platform. So just wanted to discuss that as a context and limitation of the tooling. It's not an audit tool. I think if you move on again, Maddie. So now, before we jump into the demo of version 5, what we wanted to put up as a reminder was from the previous cycle. So in the previous cycle, 2024 to 2025, we ended that cycle with a demonstration of our version 4 business case storyline, which I'm hoping that most around this table recall that work at that time. It was the financial evaluation. And this is just a quick reminder, because considering this discussion, we want to bridge your minds into the version 5 discussion that Matt's going to take us through in the tooling now. And you may recall that that business case storyline, and in the third line you can see over there, we loaded all the different sort of RTIMS categories. So the edge processing capability, along with the data management sort of requirements. On the edge side, it was how do we get Wi-Fi underground and get connected, and all this sort of edge processing and edge sensor layer types of areas. On the data management side, it was all the infrastructure that would be required to manage the data. We then spoke about the various analytics requirements that RTIMS brings forward. And then, also some of the underlying things. You'll remember the work that PwC did on data as a service, by way of example, or the security sites from DataGrade. Really important enabling sort of structural size to getting RTIMS working. So what we did within the business case storyline of the previous cycle is we mapped all these different sort of components. It definitely wasn't an exhaustive exercise, I'd say, mapped around, every single component that goes into an RTIMS infrastructure. But we certainly wanted to use the tooling to go and say, this is what it looked like. So that point one in the page that you see in front of you is all the different RTIMS infrastructure that would be required. The second part of this whole screen was the investment. So what would you actually have to spend to set up this RTIMS infrastructure? And within this generic mine, which we had simulated, we said that the investment was around a 20 million rand investment with 750,000 rand per month of ongoing operational costs to run the infrastructure. And then we went into the value cycle. So you've set this whole thing up, you've spent the money. What were the actual areas with this new infrastructure of connectivity underground with all the analytics overlays and the dashboards and all that sort of good stuff? What are the actual areas that you can actually uncover? And once you go through that whole cycle, and we're definitely not going to repeat that whole presentation because that was also, I think, an hour and a half by itself. The summary of that said that we can make a significant impact with RTIMS infrastructure in an underground environment, and that the financial payback was very clear. There we got a return on investment of 65%, an NPV of 36 million, and a payback period of 16 months. The point that I think had come through over here was actually for RTIMS that it was more of a change management exercise than the financial business case was all great, but if you couldn't actually entrench the technology through the people, we actually got a bit lost. So this was a bit of a reminder of where we came from in the version 4 tooling. I think if we page down again, Matt, then the big question is, what did we do differently on the version 5? And the first biggest point is we had to set up now on the version 5 these new levers. And this page that you see in front of us now, Matt's actually going to show us at least some of the details around this, but this is almost a summary of how you would set up the tooling to be version 5 ready. And the starting point is quite important because when you set up the tooling within your environment, you set it up, let's call it for your immediate, let's call it strategic horizon. For some of the organizations that we're working with, not because this is sort of focused on the business improvement digitization side, it's quite a short cycle. So that's a 3-year cycle rather than your life of mine 20, 25-year view. It's typically a 3-year orientated view. And the setup of those strategic objectives requires you to go through the 4 different areas, which are the version 5 criteria. And what you can see in front of you here is there's a whole lot of text, and you can read that. We'll share this presentation afterwards around just who this generic mine is. So we're setting up a generic mine for you. It's got 4 key sort of version 5 criteria on the overall performance index. This is over and above the financial criteria. It's got safety. It's got financial evaluation itself. So this financial evaluation is how it sits in the overall performance index. Point 3 is sustainability, and point 4 is services. And you can see under each of those areas, there's different underlying metrics that has been specifically weighted and specifically baseline as part of the setting up of the tooling before you do any business case evaluation. So you can see in the safety category, by way of example, that has been weighted at a 30% of the overall OPI, or overall performance index weight. And that has got the guys that pulled out 5 areas: LTIFR, they've got NIHL, which is noise-induced hearing loss. OIR, occupational illness rates. There's a number of safety areas. There's a number of financial areas, so NPV, RR, and a couple of others. On the sustainability side, for this generic setup, the environmental component, which had then some further tier 3 levers like energy intensity, water intensity, so how water intense are we within our environment, so liters per ton. GHG intensity, so that's your whole carbon dioxide mix, and CO2 per ton, and its weight to the overall sort of balanced scorecard. And then some of the other areas like the social governance, circular economy side, and SDG. On the services side, we extracted the 5 of the key areas, which has also got some matrices behind it, which anyway, I won't get into that detail now, but essentially extracted engineering as a service into mining, finance, IT, HR, and the supply chain area. So the important part over here is that first contextual picture that you saw in the beginning, before you actually get going in terms of doing an evaluation of your actual portfolio of initiatives, or the next 2-3 years of cycle of initiatives that you're looking at. What is the strategic mandate? Where does the focus need to be? That setup is what this page is about. So what did we do? I think if we can page down, Matt will take you through the load, and this is the last slide before Matt brings me back, I think, at the end. But essentially what we've done for this demo, as Marius had mentioned, we wanted to do a live demo. What you see in front of you here is we've just extracted 10 generic, let's call it, initiatives that we have beyond what we did in the version 4 tooling, which got us to that whole RTIMS IRR of 65% and the likes. We've added 10 further initiatives to the tooling. And we've combined all the RTIMS ones into, I think we called it RTIMS as itself, so as a single initiative. So you can see in this list of initiatives that you have on your left that we've loaded into the generic mining, we've got a 5 megawatt solar installation, we've got a ventilation upgrade, we've got waste reduction sorting as an initiative. We've got the hydraulic rock drills, electric locos. We've got a power twin, which is moving forward on digital twinning on your power usage environment. We've got simulation-based planning, operator simulation training as an initiative. We've got reduced potable water dependency. There was a specific initiative behind that, and there's tailings retreatment. So please, guys, this isn't a meeting about beating us with the detail of what goes into a tailings retreatment plant. This is a demonstration of the business case evaluation tooling. So just so that you know what Matt's going to be taking you through is a demo that has some generic initiatives like this loaded. And then what you see in the illustrative is what he's going to take you through is some of the traditional, so the version 4 capability is still fully functional within your tooling, and you can see that on the right-hand page, excluding the bar chart that's there on the right, which is the new overall performance index. It then has all the standard financial levers that you have had before, but over and above that, it's got the overall performance index at an initiative level. And Matt will take you through how we look at that as a portfolio and as an initiative. Additionally,
is it only me, or have we lost contact?
Oh, same here. Can you hear us? Can you see our screen?
Johan, we can still hear clearly. We can see your screen. Thank you.
Anybody else besides Marius lost us there? Maybe there's a thumbs up.
Are we good?
Okay, good.
Marius, have you got us again?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, yeah, you can carry on.
Marius,
Thank
can you hear us? Was Marius dropped off maybe?
No, I'm here. Can you hear me? You can carry on.
Seppo, are you online?
We can hear
Yes, I
Marius.
can hear.
Yeah.
Can hear you.
Daisy, can you hear us? CJP is
Matt,
there?
I can hear you guys on this side, so I'm not sure.
I can pull myself.
I don't think they can hear us.
Happened now. I think they've dropped out. They're probably going to come in again. Can you all hear me at least?
Yes, I can
You
hear
can
you.
use fine, yeah. Also, no problem.
No,
Thank you.
everything was fine.
Okay. Let's give them a second.
Maurice, while we wait for them, I'm quite excited what I've seen thus far. So for me, it's very fascinating, and I'm looking forward to the next portion of the presentation. I can see value in the solution for the industry.
Yeah, that's very, very good news. I'm just going to see if I can call them in. Oh, there they are.
Hi guys.
Matthew, Anton, I don't know if it was me that caused the whole commotion, but you're back now. I can hear you.
Okay, that's perfect. As long as we're back on.
Let me just start sharing again. We'll share this demo. When did you guys lose us, or when did you see the last slide that we had?
This is shared.
Yeah, we'll share in just a minute.
It was a slide. You said this was the last slide. This before you're going to start off with the presentation or the demo bit.
Okay, let's just get back there, then we can just hop onto the demonstration as well. So resume.
Have you got a slide in front of you, Marius, that says Sustainability and Services Initiatives?
You went through the initiatives, and we were all with you when you did that. And I can see the presentation now. I think I can
You
carry
can see the
on.
presentation. Okay, great.
All right. So essentially, where I got to, and I'm not sure where I lost you, was the financial evaluation capability of version 4 is still fully available in the version 5 capability, and you can see the financial evaluations happening just in this demo page. And over and above that, one of the really important evaluation reporting systems was the value driver trees, of which you'll see the new overall performance index value driver trees also as part of the reporting. So I think that's by way of context and intro and what's been loaded into the demo. At this point, I'll hand over to Matt, and he'll take you through the actual tooling itself.
Okay, great. I'm just going to share my screen. I'm going to be demoing this on the Excel tool itself. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it. Thanks, Matthew.
Okay, great. So this is just the landing page of the tool itself. Just do this quickly. And I think just on the landing page, obviously the functionality is very much as it was before. We've just got this area over here where we have to, as I think Anne said, you've got to capture some of the information around the health and safety, sustainability, services, and capital upgrades. And it's really about baselining that information and putting in your sort of a normalization score and your weightings, which is obviously very important. And that happens at the beginning of of when you actually initialize this tool and start using it. So I'm just going to, some of it's already loaded. I just want to show you how it works on a basic level. So if we had to add a mine here, just if you guys can see my screen, just let me know if you can see the actual, I'm typing in here and selecting some things. So now I'm just going to add a new mine. A note is that the narrow reef is where we focused all the the new OPI matrix. We haven't done it on the other categories of mine currently. We obviously wanted to get it finalized on this one for this cycle. Okay, and this is the important part. So you can see over here, we've got these four categories of areas that we want to evaluate for this specific mine, or actually for all the mines that we use in this actual instance of the tool. And you can change the weightings. Now that's obviously user inputs, and obviously some weightings might be more than or less depending on your strategic outlook for that mine or for your portfolio of mines. So that's obviously an important input to put in there. So obviously for this mine, we've selected all of these. You can obviously put a 0 rating if you're not going to use services or sustainability to evaluate your initiatives. I'm not going to do so then on this next page, it's really about drilling down into what we have here. So let me go to financial. And you can see there are already preloaded KPIs here that we've got. You've got NPV, IRR, total production costs, and revenue. And over here, you can then weight each of these specific to your portfolio of mines. And I think the important one is that you've got a KPI scale. So obviously, this is what is a good number, what is a bad number. For the OPI rating, that's obviously you're looking at it from a holistic point of view, and it's a sort of a weighting out of 100%. So obviously, whatever your baseline is, you need to normalize that for your evaluation purposes. Let me just go back to another example. So sustainability. These have obviously got other underlying levers like environment, social governance, circular economy, and SDG. So let me just give you an example. We can put these all at 20%. Obviously, these are user inputs, and you can weight them accordingly. And then you can go to next. Next. Let's just save those. And carry on to next. And then under each of those ones there, for sustainability, the underlying ones that we've actually loaded in here. So under environmental, you can see, and these are user-defined. I think that's important to note. These are user-defined metrics. So if your mine is looking at something different to greenhouse gas emissions or intensities, you can actually load anything specifically in here. You can baseline it according to what is currently at that mine. You can weight it according to what you want to weight it for, and then you can also put in what you consider to be a good number, an average, a good, and a poor number, so that we can normalize those numbers. So for environmental, as I said, you can add more of these if you want to. For social, I don't know if that's a question there. Yeah. And also, if you want, or you can actually just say, okay, social overall, and you can just have it as an overlying metric and say, okay, for social, we are considering ourselves visual perspective at a 50% as your baseline, and then you can obviously put in different numbers here. You can put in a 20, a 40, a 60, 80, and 100 if you want to. And that goes for all the metrics. So it is quite, it's you can really go deep dive here if you want to for all of these. It's the same for services. So services, okay, for this one, I haven't got preloaded services, but for the other metrics, for each of these, you can go down into more detail. So that's really the setup of the tool. So you've got to really decide what your metrics are, what your, in the three categories, and what your weightings are, what your baseline for that mine specifically is, and what poor, good, average, and excellent look like, so that you can normalize those scores. And once you've done that, it saves it, and that's then stored in the actual tool itself. And that then is your fundamental baseline for evaluating your initiatives against. So that's the setup of the tool at the beginning. I'm now going to just open up the tool that's got the preloaded initiatives as Anton shared with us previously. So just give me a second while I get that going. Stop sharing.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, there is a guide document that they've produced that guides you how to do this as well.
Yeah, so we've got a manual that shows you how to go about this. Okay. I'm just loading the tool. It takes a while, the new file. Okay, here we go. Let's share that. Okay, can you see my screen again?
Yes, yes, we can see it.
Great. Okay, so as I said, the landing page. Now, if I go to the initiative page, that's that one page that Anta just read an extract from when you've got all these initiative loaded. So I'm going to demonstrate the new stuff of the tool. So we're not going to look at the version 4 functionality, which I think we've covered quite extensively previously. This is really just looking at some of the new aspects of the version 5 tool. So I just want to show you how you input initiative information. So I was going to go here and I'm going to edit one of these preloaded initiatives. Okay. Takes a while. Sorry, what I'm sharing here. Okay, I'm just going to close the right-hand menu over here. So this is the operator simulation training. As you can see, we've got the usual metrics that are showing your financial metrics. We've got the break-even analysis. And then we've also got an overall performance indicator on the side, which is basically showing you how this initiative has impacted the OPI, how it's changed over year 1, 2, and 3. Just a reminder, the initiatives are evaluated over a 3-year period. So that's how we look at the initiatives. So normally, the previous versions, it's obviously CapEx and OpEx, and obviously each of these initiatives will probably have those as well. You can see we've added some CapEx to these. There's revenue categories. So how is the initiative impacting your revenue levers? How is it impacting your this process constraints costs as well? And then if you go further down, here are the new levers that we put in here. So there's health and safety, and there's so on that front initial page where you could actually define your actual metrics. These will then be populated in this input page for all the different areas that you're looking at. So health and safety, sustainability, services for that specific initiative. Sometimes initiatives aren't touching some of these, and they won't be loaded for the mine. So for this specific initiative, you can see that we've got some baseline metrics over here. And obviously, we are, from an intensity point of view for energy, water, and greenhouse gases, we're saying that this initiative is reducing those by whatever that factor is. It's a differential model, and you input that over the 3-year period, and you can also see that there's also some positive impact around your circular economy, etc. So you can see the baseline, and obviously we're saying that this initiative is improving your circular economy by 5. That's a percentage for this specific metric. And these are specific metrics that are probably energy intensity would be kilowatt hours per ton, etc. So each of these initiatives, you would input that plus any financial information that you have regarding CapEx and efficiency increases or production increases. And then you save this initiative. And then that's saved, and you can see some of your ratings here. From there, you can obviously go into your reporting side. So that's really the capture. So you're capturing your improvements on not just your financial now. We've added the other categories like services, sustainability, and health and safety. Once you've captured that information, you can go look at your reporting. So obviously, on the initiative reports, this is the mid-tier mine you can select. And let me go to the tailings retreatment example and just open up that report. Okay, so the initiative report's quite similar to the input page. You've got the financial information over here. You've got your break-even analysis, and on the OPI metrics, you can actually see that for this specific initiative, you've got an overall OPI plus. You can see it's impacting the four main areas: health and safety, financial, sustainability, and services. And you can see this initiative hasn't really impacted health and safety services, but it's obviously impacted sustainability a lot, as well as it's got a good financial upside, and the overall OPI has increased from 44 to by 9.3. So this one just tells you how you're doing there. You can see the before and after for the OPI index, as well as the financial. You can get a view of both sort of lenses that you can review these in. And obviously below here, there's some more detail around each of those OPIs, and you can actually see how that impacted each of the different areas. So you can see the health and safety, financial, sustainability, and services. You can deep dive more into this report if you want to look at those metrics specifically over the 36-month period. Yeah, so I think that's the one area. Then the other report that I think is quite interesting is the value driver tree report. So we obviously have the financial value driver tree, and that's as is, it hasn't changed, but now we've got this OPI VDT. And once again, so it's a nice visual look of how to see an initiative and how it's impacting various areas. And I can take that specific example again and open up that report. Okay, I'm just going to zoom out here. It's quite a busy. So I'll just zoom out just to show you the different areas. So on this report, you can see your overall performance index, and I will zoom in again. I just wanted to show you that it is quite a, it shows you all the different levers, so health and safety, and then it'll be all the levers that impact health and safety from an OPI perspective that you've inputted. And then obviously there are ones that are not relevant anymore and those won't be shown. You've got your financial with your MPV and your IR revenue, etc. And then your sustainability is broken down into environmental, social, governance, circular economy, and SDG. And each of those then actually have underlying, like environmental as energy intensity, water intensity, greenhouse gas intensity, etc. And then also services. So you can see that it's quite a broad spectrum, but here you can actually see how your initiative is impacting those areas. For this specific initiative, you can see that it has a fairly big impact on sustainability, and that's coming really from a social perspective as well as a circular economy perspective. This is a tailings retreatment example, and it's taken your sustainability OPI from 37.8, that's your baseline, to 52.8. Your financial is improved from 24.7 to 57.4, and that's contributed to an increase of your OPI from 43.6 to 53.1. And this is on a monthly basis, so you can go and have a look at this across various areas. Okay, this initiative, let's just go to it. Yeah, you can see that it's obviously not as high at the beginning of the project, but it obviously ramps up as it goes along. Yeah, so this is the VDT OPI report. Good summary report to see where you're pulling the different levers and what's affecting that overall performance index. And then I think the enterprise evaluation is really sort of, this is the overall view of, and the OPI, we've looked at it from a mine perspective, not from a portfolio perspective, but from a mine perspective, because that's obviously got the same baselines. So if we take our mine that we've done our initiative evaluation on, we can have a look at the enterprise evaluation. And this is obviously a holistic view across of the impact the initiatives have across that specific mine. And its impact on the financial, so the previous version 4 metrics, as well as the new OPI type of metrics. It's got lots of calculations. It will load eventually. Sorry, computer is a bit slow today. Okay, so this is your and some of the graphs I've actually just zoomed out a bit more, but this is showing your enterprise evaluation and how those portfolios of initiatives are doing. We've loaded 10 or 11, so you can see that they're performing fairly well. And you've got your general graphs that are showing you, which initiatives have got the highest IRR and your cumulative expenditure, etc. But the new graphs I want to show you are really about the OPI performance here. And let me just zoom in a bit. And this is really saying, okay, well, maybe just do this quickly. So just close that. And this is just showing, you can have a look at which initiatives have the biggest impact on which area, health and safety, financial sustainability and services, as well as which ones contribute the most to your improvement in your OPI. So you can obviously see our baseline OPI was about 44%, and we've improved it by 27% to a 71% score. And the tailings retreatments had sort of the biggest upside on the overall OPI. You can see, obviously, on services side, which initiatives had the big impact there was the operator simulation training. And on the financial side, it was a tailings retreatment. So this gives you a bit of an overall view as to which initiatives impacted which areas the most, because you might want to focus on certain areas, maybe sustainability or around health and safety, etc. Another interesting graph that we've added here, I think just to recap, I think previously we had this efficiency frontier graph which is a financial look at the cumulative MPV of initiatives and cumulative CapEx, and it's prioritized by IRR. So how much, what's the value of these and how much of the impact in the specific mine? And it's obviously giving you a good perspective of where you might want to focus if your budget constraints at 300 million, which initiatives would you focus on first? And if you look at this example, you can see that the RTIMS overall project sort of stands out first, and then it's ventilation upgrade, hydraulic rock drills, and tailings retreatments. So what we've done now is done a very similar graph, but actually looked at the OPI rating. And that spins a slightly different lens on this, because obviously you can now see, instead of the MPV, we're looking at OPI and how that cumulative view looks across the cumulative CapEx. And you can see that tailings retreatment actually comes out first, followed by RTIMS overall, operator simulation training, and ventilation upgrade. So it obviously just gives you a different lens as to what you might want to focus on if it's not just purely financially driven. Yeah, so I think that's a quick summary. I've gone through that quite quickly, but that gives you an overall view of how the inputs page changed. Obviously, firstly, the mine inputs, you've got to now input your OPI metrics, your weightings, your baselines, and your normalization categories. Then it's going into your initiative inputs, and now you've got new input categories where initiatives are impacting some of these new metrics. And then it's the reporting side. We've got new VDT reports, new graphs in our initiative report, and also our enterprise report. I think that's just a quick summary. I don't know if... Oh, yes, sorry. Actually, the most important one. And I think the last report I want to show you is the OPI dashboard. Now, this is obviously a summary of all of that on one page. Just give me a second while that loads. And the OPI dashboard is one picture you might have seen at the beginning of the presentation, where it's just showing all 4 categories and quadrants and how they've improved with all your initiatives at a specific mine. So it's mine specific. And it's just showing you a good holistic view of where you're at on each of those metrics. Just tell me if you can see a dashboard there. Sometimes they can't see it.
We can see it. This is the round one with the 4 quadrants.
Yes, okay, you can see that. Great. So this is telling you, this is a nice quick view and saying, okay, well, my overall performance index that shows you the baseline was 44%. And actually, with those 10 initiatives, we've actually improved it to 71%. You can then look under the underlying factors to see where most of those improvements have come from. So sustainability has improved from 38 to 67%, and that's due to a couple of other, scenarios there. I just want to see, you might not be able to see the whole graph. Sorry, I don't know why it's not showing on my screen completely. On the services, you've obviously improved your engineering from 20 to 50, and that's contributed from the baseline going from 44 to 51. And on health and safety, there's obviously this underlying areas such as LTIFR, your NIHL, and those have improved. You can see your baseline plus the initiative improvements on each of those. So it's really just a nice holistic view as to show you where you've improved, which areas have shown the most improvement with those initiatives specific to that mine. And I think that's where, I think that's where the close out on the demo. Obviously open to any questions, etc. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew. I think what you've managed to do within the scope that you had to do it, and I think it was quite impressive from my side. I'm going to open it to the floor to see if there's any questions. I've got some questions, but I'll ask that.
Go back to the presentation. Yeah, and we've got a little bit of a discussion way forward, but I think it might be good to Q&A first, Morris, and then just our suggested way forward we can put up in some summary from the marketing campaign as well, Morris. Would you want us to present that first and questions at the end?
I think I've got two hands already. Let's see if we can answer those first. Johan Jansen and then JP Torres.
Firstly, not a question, a request. Can you share this presentation with us, please?
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks,
yeah, I think
absolutely.
on that, if you can maybe send it to me and I can send it to everyone that was on the group.
Sure, will be.
Yeah, and I've got record of it as well.
Hi, good afternoon, Matt. Good afternoon, Anton. Thank you so much for this. Really appreciate it. And great work done. Really, it looks impressive. My question is just around, does your model also accommodate for showcasing value around maybe some of the softer value that certain initiatives can also contribute to? I've in the chat used just a basic example where potentially you want to use Gen AI as a solution to automate a process, but it doesn't really explicitly point to any of the main KPIs that you've demoed. It might be a time saving. And that time saving more often than not, you would find that people would try and allocate that time saving to someone's hourly rate, and that hourly rate will then be visualized as a potential saving. But we also know that whatever time you save is not 100% then reallocated to productive time. So how does the tool make provision for communicating or building a business case to utilize maybe some Gen AI, machine learning, your typical business improvement initiatives?
Yeah, thanks, JP. So if I understand correctly, you're saying you've got a Gen AI or an ML type of initiative in that's going to contribute a productivity of these couple hours, etc. Is that the point?
Yeah, and it might be a very strategic process to the business. And as you go through optimizing the process, the only real value that you can communicate is just the amount of time you save. And yes, you can also argue there might be, because you're going to automate some of the process steps, there might also be the elimination of errors, finger errors, human errors, and the likes thereof. But then how do you quantify that? So that initiative, as important as it is, would still then rank as a high priority compared to your normal capital expenditure initiatives, like replacement of an incline conveyor belt on a specific BU that would always rank high, but that you can also see the equal important strategic process improvement that you also would need to focus on, or at least spend some investment in.
Yeah, 100%. So specifically on that type of an initiative we've actually got some productivity gains that we would have, and we didn't demo that today, that we would have done the version 4 tooling, and we would have done a financial evaluation of that initiative and the potential productivity savings. So you probably recall, JP, from the version 4 KPI trees, you've got essentially two buckets of levers that you've got. You've got those that impact tons and those that impact costs. So in this case, it looks like it's almost a cost saving productivity type of an initiative. And you have to sort of go and load that specific expected trajectory on that evaluation component, and that would spit out a financial result. And then the underlying levers that you're talking about are you probably, when you're starting to talk about the quality of service, because your GenAI or your ML application would also have, let's call it, the quality of service, which would be improved, but is somewhat intangible from a financial perspective to measure. That was the reason we put the overall performance index together, is you would want to go into that specific service environment. So let's go and say you did that specific function in supply chain. And that's where you got your productivity saving, but the underlying result was improved. When you go and actually then go into that service category of supply chain, you go and then identify the improvement, so that you're now seeing two lenses. You're seeing both, listen, financially, this thing has got its own merit as it is, but also overall from our more strategic levers of what we're trying to impact within the supply chain environment. You might have some underlying components below that, but we're actually impacting what we're trying to do in the business, and our quality of services improve. So by way of example, if you've gone and there's been a continual complaint around the turnaround time of getting your purchase orders placed through your requisition system or whatever it might be, your Gen AI sort of system had automated that. It got some sort of hours down, but the quality of service is intangible. You'd want to see that go up on your OPI balance scorecard metric that we have here. I don't know if that fully answers your question, JP, because I think what you're also saying is that was sort of part one. I think part two of what you were saying is also you don't want to lose the line of sight of maybe some of the smaller initiatives, if I understood you.
Yeah, happy. No, you've answered me. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think this
JC here. To add to JP's point, that's valid. Because if you look at our space, not everything costs a lot of money, but it has value. So as you have in a let's say outside of mining sector, you've got business to business B2B solutions. I call this type of example of a 2-hour process, payroll reduction. That's also, let's say, the department to department, like D2D services that we want to quantify.
100%.
I think that the question is then, Matthew, is this tool intuitive enough to incorporate those type of initiatives that has been mentioned, or would it require some specialization or configuration in order to do that? How powerful is this in terms of configuration to accommodate those type of initiatives?
Yeah, I think if I listen to both JC and JP there, this all in my mind talks to a quality of service. And it's specifically why we put the OPI or balance scorecard metrics in place, is that what you want to see is let's call it that what JC mentioned now is your reduction in time for your payroll, which is very, very intangible financially to measure. But within your HR service department, which is on your bottom left metric that Matt has in front of us here, you would have the underlying strategic objectives where you would have highlighted which areas you want to see almost an improved quality of service happening by. And have we shifted the dial in that? So yes, we can't really see a major impact financially, more of a leading indicator than a direct outcome on the financial side. But we really want to see in our business, this is something important, that our people want to get the payroll done in time. They can see their pay time they're able to actually get into the right mindset. How much money are we going to put today? But what we could do is we can absolutely do that as a weighted element in the OPI matrix. So we think that has been catered in this version of the tooling. But tomorrow, to answer your point, I think that within what we could cover in the cycle, I would say it's very initial. We would, I think we do need to expand out, especially in the services and the sustainability side. I think we need to expand out to some of these specific use cases. We've gone as far as we could in some use cases through some of the discussions with the Teresa team, some of the discussions with the Harmony team. At Zara, we've also had some discussions. We've sort of tried to cater as much as we can, but we do think that there's space for further ease of use of the evaluation tooling around some of these specific areas that JC and JP are highlighting. There's me rambling on. JC's sleeping already.
Thanks, Matthew. I think the other question, while I'm not seeing hands, is how to get to this tool now that it's available. So you've done it. Our obligation is to make it available to the industry. So in the guide or the manual that you've created, you've indicated how to get this tool or how to download it, and that would be our part of the obligation to make it available. But to make it more specific or to make it bespoke to a specific mine and its initiative, that is where you would have to come in. And I don't see that as something that the MMP would have to be involved in. That's something that you could help directly. But certainly the extent to what we've done now, first of all, I hope I've got approval that this project is done sufficiently for my TSC, but I will arrange that afterwards. And the secondly is to make it now available to the industry. So I'll use the platforms that's available to MMP to make the reports available. And that would also include the manual, and it's in the manual that directs you how to get access to the tool. I would also like to have a copy of the tool in our Knowledge No More portal that one can access it as a sample. But I'll have discussions with you of how to do that. And then, but if one needs support, I don't know what the arrangements are. If one got questions, I don't know how intuitive this is and how elaborate your manual would help support it. But could they phone you if they want to use it and play with it to get some more insights in this? Obviously, to a limit, I would guess.
Yeah, and of course, yeah, 100%. So if anyone needs some guidance, help, whatever, please reach out to us and we'll definitely hop on a call and we'll definitely assist.
And just very specifically what Marius mentioned over there, I think most on the call will be aware that there's a manual that comes with the tooling. And within that manual, there is very explicit guides. You hit a button. It's a little smarter than what I can get to, but Kirk would have to take us through that. But it gives you guidelines as to how from cloud you can download the tooling. So you go through this bit of a process and it will download a blank version of the tooling into your environment. So your answer, and then to Marius and Matt's point over here, question, just please reach out to us at any time. We love the engagements.
Yeah.
If we happy, then I'm just going to jump forward. I think one of the mandates for this discussion was just some of our views on the way forward and just a wrap up of the marketing campaign. Just jump straight to slide 10. I don't currently have this stuff.
Okay, so we're moving off the business case story. We're going to marketing.
No, not off the business case tooling. We've got both. I think that was JC, right?
Yeah.
We're going to just talk firstly way forward on business case tooling. Secondly,
Okay.
on marketing.
Okay.
You comfortable with that?
Yes.
All right, so this is just a one pager on where we've got to in terms of the advanced analytics journey that we entered this year, specifically moving into this non-core sort of lever side. What you see in front of you, and maybe I can just start with a bit of a story, is the guys in our office, and specifically the one next to me and a few more, but they're really saying to us, guys, you're stretching the limit of what Excel can do. So between Matt and I, we've been fighting and beating this Excel drum as hard as we can. But really, I think, it's been very useful as almost a rapid prototyping tool to get to a space that we believe, I think we've got something that's really useful within industry. And the main context of that is it's really great. But in terms of let's call it user functionality and how it can be used in the MMP platforms and the likes, we think that the timing's right to move this into a full-blown web application. And if you look at the latest tools around software development and the AI-enabled software development and the likes, it's really, I think that the ability to do these things, it would have been quite an exercise back in the past. But we think that this is something that the timing is right for RTIMS to be moving forward into taking this into a web application. And so if you just look at, we put a couple of other words like standard options libraries, and I want to touch on some of that thinking. And but if you just glance your eyes to the left of the screen first. So what we try to put here is just a bit of a checklist of what's in place for you at the moment. So what's the current version 5 competence list? And then on the bottom left is some thoughts for you for next cycles as an opportunity list there going forward. So the competence list, I think version 4 of the tooling on the top left of that, I think is quite well covered out with all the financial evaluation capability. On the top right of that current competence list, please let's not forget about the gaming application. I think that tooling by itself, although we couldn't further it in this cycle with the constraints, is I think very, very important capabilities. How do we help people to really practically test things in a simulated environment? We think there's still lots of opportunity around that. So the gamification as that competence is let's not forget about that capability, really good. And then, of course, all the V5 capability that Matt took us through today. Looking forward, as some thoughts, we split it into sort of core and optional components, and this is all for discussion. The first point over there in very small text, sorry about that, is the evaluate app, i.e. moving this business case tooling into an actual evaluation web application module. We think that would be useful. And then the second point I want to just spend a little bit of time around is we call it Develop Digitization's Options Library. And what we vision with this web application of evaluation tooling that's made available to industry is a standard library. So if you think of No More at the moment, it's got like so much deep research and the likes. What we're seeing is that we can build into the business case evaluation a space which has got a summarized view of what RTIMS, let's call it, main sort of digitization options, what we've done at the edge with underground Wi-Fi and all the wearable devices and all those sorts of good things. if in partnership with the vendors, we can actually create a library that sits within the business case tooling, where you can see this, what this thing looks like as an actual 3D sort of picture of it, but then also what your expected financial benefits are in this generic business case. I think that if we do that for like an RTIMS and an AOK and some of the other sort of the longevity of current mines, if we start sort of pulling these initiatives into a standard options library, that can grow over time. So we build this module into this web application. We think that would be very powerful. And then combined with a third point that we're suggesting over here is what we call a vendor demonstration module. So of course, we'll set up with a standard sort of options library, but I think it's going to be really important as well for all the RTIMS partners to be able to just jump onto this web application themselves. And if you've given them access, they can actually load their technology. So let's say we're talking about collision avoidance or pedestrian detection systems, and you're talking to one of the vendors like a Probe or whoever it might be. You can create space for them that they can actually go and say, well, listen, put your specific technology into the business case tool yourself. It's your place to showcase what it looks like, but then also what value, and mostly this is the business case tooling. So what value, both on this OPI format as well as financially, in a generic mine situation, what do you expect to see when this is our context? So we think that would be very valuable. Then a couple of optional elements that we've included over here. We think that where we left the gaming application side, I think very important that, to finish this beta model sort of side, to finish that validation phase, I think would be really beneficial if you've got the appetite for that. MMP cross-program options library, that really talks to the core, but if you're thinking about building some of the business case capability that works cross programs, so some of the AOK stuff or longevity of current mines, that might be some thinking. We think that the RTIMS marketing campaign has been quite successful in getting traction, at least the commentary that we get from all parties and stakeholders involved. So potentially moving forward on that. And then, potentially, like I think what JC and JP were talking about earlier, is we said a potential further development of the services and sustainability evaluation levers, into some very practical and definable areas, i.e. take from, let's call it the value driver tree, we took it to deepen it into some very specific areas. There might be value within that. So there was just some thoughts that very initial from our side, but we were requested to just give some thoughts on way forward. That's a bit of a summary on our side. Then just on the next page, just on the digital marketing side, we think it's been a really great year. Annette led that for us, and we think it's been very successful. There's a whole bunch of text on the right there. And that was the shortened version, by the way. But we do think that it was a good cycle of moving beyond the core operational thinking, because digitization, as we've all said, is much bigger than only what we do in the stopes and the lights. And then the second bullet point over there, I personally found quite fascinating was some of the stats. So we intentionally, we published less posts this year and did a whole lot, let's call it deeper dives with industry leaders, let's call it. So there's still a couple more posts to go, but this was as at this state where it was 11 posts that we released for this cycle, generated that 22,599 impressions. And some other stats. What was interesting is that the previous cycle we did like almost double the amount of, or let's call it more than double the amount of posts, and very similar amount of impressions and clicks. So what it showed to me, at least, was the quality of the content and the engagement is getting stronger and stronger around what's getting published from an RTIMS side. That third bullet, what content was important. definitely, like, if you see the work that was done with a Teresa and a Harmony and some of the stuff with Reese, where we actually got into Q&As and the likes, with some expert insights around. That was just phenomenal, and you could see it in the stats. I go and I look at all the little graphs that get published by Sinet on her reports and things, and you can see what really is resonating. And when you're getting to that sort of content, people are very interested to see what experts are talking about and what people are saying. So we think that strategy really worked out quite well. We think that the structured approach of moving through themes and topics like sustainability, where we spent some time on sustainability, then we moved on to capital upgrades, and we moved on to services. That was very effective. And there's a couple additional posts that Sinet wants to do still in this month, that we're taking on ourselves, but just to make sure that the services component has been sufficiently represented. And I think we wanted to do this demo of the tooling, but using a practical use case like we showed you. I think Sinet still wants to put that through. So there's a couple more things to come, but yeah, we think it's been quite a good platform and suggest that probably continues. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that journey progress tracker, but I think that's probably too much detail for now. But in summary, I think quite effective, and yeah, thank you to the team for the support on that one. I think Matt, Morris, I think that would be all on the way forward. I don't know if there's any thoughts or questions around that, but I think that's more just food for thought, to be quite honest.
Thank you very much on that. Anthony, is there anyone in the group that would like to respond or to comment?
Here. The RTIMS awareness campaign, these 7 posts, did you post it from the Digital Twin LinkedIn page, or did you post it from the RTIMS LinkedIn page?
So the method, JC, that's been used, and there's more than 7. This is just so that it could fit on the screen. But the method that's been used is we've used the Digital Twin marketing or LinkedIn page to post, and then what Sinet's done is she sends that on to Ntombi to reshare within the MMP networks and to selected sort of other stakeholder groups. So primarily it's been created just because that's the least admin from our side to get it published through our page, and then it's shared also via the MMP networks through Ntombi.
But those 22 impressions, 22,599, it includes the RTIMS website or LinkedIn, repost impressions, or does it only count for what's been directly done on Digital Twin's LinkedIn page?
That's a good point. That's only what you see from the Digital Twin metrics. So we'd have to get Ntombi to actually go and pull out the metrics from her side, to pull out the actual performance as it is through the MMP environment. That's a good point, JC.
Okay. So if I can then on that point, each post was done with some end user that had to reshare it on their company page to maybe also reach out back to those end users to see if they can get those stats in the same format, and then we can have a combined view. So, well, we did not only generate 22, we generated more. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, no, it is. I think so we haven't sorted out the hosting part of it, but we do have access to it. So this to maybe show to the user. So what you can see now is the Normal portal. And from the Normal portal, you can then access any of the reports that we have done, not only in RTIMS, but in all the programs of all the years that have been done. So this is what you can use. And there's also what we call an ecosystem. One of the ecosystems is the awareness campaign. So if you go to this, I hope it's going to work now. You should see this slide, and I use this as a landing page, Anton, which you can actually go to the last year's and this year's. So this is what you've done this year, which has got all these posts, and then you can go in deeper. So this is how currently we then access the things that you've posted. But I do think that from what JC said, we should actually do some more work to couple it more closely to Ntombi's hosting part. So we'll address that go along. Yeah, I think that's thanks for that. I still want, as you saw the ecosystem that I've showed, yeah, I wanted to add another ecosystem which includes the business case validation tool as something that you can go into, navigate and play with, in addition to download the manual for it if you want it. So that's what's on my view. I just don't know much. So we're not a good hosting entity for things. We host it now through our partners through which we did it. So until we've got a better way, this is what I would want to do. So I would still need your help in some way, Anton, just to help me get this ecosystem going on what you've done. So that's just
perfect. And maybe what we can do here is for this post that Sinet wants to do for us, just to that really takes you through this practical use case that we've gone through now, version 5. Maybe we can create almost a little bit of a video demo of what Matt took us through, obviously a much shorter one, like a 5-minute jobby or something like that. I don't know, we could try and put something like that together, which could then sort of come into your environment here, Morris.
Yeah.
Right stuff. Yeah, I think that will really work. Thanks. If you can help me with that, that would be perfect. So for the intended purpose of this meeting, I think you've presented. I think you've done it well. Thanks for that. It sounded to me like there's interest. I'll pursue that afterwards. Maybe not. I'm not going to use this platform to ask if I've got approval for this project, but I'll get that afterwards. But I'm sure you did well. Thanks, Matthew and Anton and Sinet and everyone that worked on it. Yeah, I think that was all from my side. I don't know if there was huge interest in this from the university, not from university, from the CSR. Ruth, can I put you on the spot just to get your impression in terms of what you saw or what you were hoping you were going to see that you didn't see? If you don't mind, if I really put the spotlight on you, this your impression, first raw impressions on this.
Yeah, with being put on the spot, I can say it's quite interesting what we've seen. It aligns with what we expected to see as a high level. Very good insights. I think there's room for more engagement from our side. So we will be reaching out certainly, Marius.
Okay. Right. No, thanks for Ruth. I didn't know how you're gonna respond to this. Well, that's all from my side. Thank you very much. Thank you really very much, Anton and Matthew. We'll be in touch going forward, and I'll pursue certain things after this as well. And that is all from our side.
Thank you
Awesome.
to Marius and the team. Appreciate it as always. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.